Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Networking Myths, Facts, and Hacks, brought to you by your Vanderbilt Alumni Association. I'm Sarah Whitney Anderson, Assistant Director of Alumni and Student Engagement, and I'm so glad you could join us from wherever you are this afternoon. Today's webinar will last around 45 minutes with time at the end for questions, so feel free to type questions as you have them in the questions box on the side panel of your screen throughout the presentation, and we will make sure these are addressed in some way before the time is up. We will record today's webinar and post on Expert Advice webpage and VU Connect, and we will share the recording with you via email. Many of you know our presenter today from previous alumni career offerings here at Vanderbilt, and I'm excited he's back with us for this presentation to prepare us all for Networking Night on November 8th. Networking Night will allow you to create meaningful connections with all alumni in your city or a city near you. Sign up on vuconnect.com/networkingnight. Our presenter today is Jim Bellar of the Bellar Group. Jim has worked with a variety of clients in job and career transitions, including students and executives. His experience includes leadership roles as Associate Director at the Vanderbilt Center for Student Professional Development and Director of Career Development at the Nashville Career Advancement Center. A graduate of Western Kentucky University, he is a Global Career Development Facilitator and has presented at national and international conferences. I am excited to now turn this afternoon's presentation over to Jim.
All right, terrific, Sarah. And thank you, Lauren, as well. Thanks for everybody who's listening in out there today. Full disclosure, I told Lauren and Sarah, I'm not a big fan of networking workshops because I think many of them ask us to be someone that we're not. We only do these 5 things, we can be expert networkers. And today, I want to take a different approach to this that maybe is less painful and more realistic to help you prepare for situations in life where you may need connections to accomplish a goal. And also, I want to prepare those who are going to the Alumni Networking Night for the event next month. So today, we're going to cover these things. We're going to talk about networking versus making connections, 2 very different things. We're going to talk about 5 myths and facts, it's hard to say, 5 networking strategies, and 10 networking hacks from Vanderbilt alums. This is my favorite part of the webinar. And then we're going to take some questions at the end. So networking versus making connections. You know, we all have an image of people who network. Maybe it's a guy or a woman handing out business cards at a rapid rate. They got a drink in their hand and they're moving from one group to another. And a lot of people think that's what networking is. And we see those folks at big events. According to a pay scale article, we should come up with another word for networking because the one we have is icky. I-C-K-Y, this is their word. The one we have is icky, and I would have to agree with that. I'm going to use the word networking today, but when I'm saying networking, what I'm really talking about is making connections and building relationships. Because you can network all day and all night long and not make any connections, and you may not achieve the purpose you're trying to accomplish. According to a Vault article, networking is an opportunity to connect with others, to share useful resources and information, so it benefits both parties. You know, when we're talking about making connections, you're already doing this because you have networks. You know, you talked with Lauren and Sarah about sports. So you have networks to see sports, and you have networks for entertainment and go to clubs, and you have networks around education and childcare. So, but today, I want you to think of all these networks as one big group that's here to support you, and understand you can use these networks across purposes. So it's not just a singular thing that you engage with. We're going to talk about 5 myths quickly about networking. And the first one is networking is about meeting as many people as possible, right? Some people think it's a numbers game. We go to a big event, there's 1,000 people there. We can connect with, we can meet 100 people and follow up with 50, and maybe 2 will go out to coffee with us or whatever. And you know, that's not a very efficient way to do networking. Networking or making connections is about finding the right people to connect with. And here's the thing, you don't need to connect with everybody. Before you start networking, I want you to ask yourself this question. What is the problem you're trying to solve? What is the problem you're trying to solve? And that could be a work-related or non-work-related. So are you going out to dinner this Friday night and you need the name of the best restaurant in town? Or do you need cheap symphony tickets? Or do you need professional development advice? Once you understand the problem you're trying to solve, then you can understand the people who are there, can be there as resources. Have a friend right now who's applying to PhD programs across the United States, and he's narrowed those down to 3 schools. He's never done this before. And he's got degrees from 3 different universities in 3 states. And he's trying to get his statement of purpose and everything in line. And I said, well, have you reached out to the alumni associations at these 3 schools? One, to find a mentor to help guide you through this process. And number 2, for folks to reach out to those top 3 programs to help you understand the programs, the quality of instruction and all those different things. And he hadn't thought of it. And, again, that's one way we can use our networks. Just for fun, I want you to think of a problem that you want to solve right now. And let's say it's not work related. Let's say you want to move across town. You want to move to a cheaper condo, or you want to buy a car, or you have a birthday. You have a friend's got a birthday coming up and you need to get them a gift. So I want you to think of one problem you're trying to solve, and I want you to think of 2 people that can help you solve that problem, or 2 people who know someone who can help you solve that problem. So let's take a couple of seconds and again, think of a problem and 2 people to help you solve it. Okay, I know this is a fast group, so as you see, you don't need everybody to help you solve your problem. You need the right people. So you have to, again, find the people who can help you solve your problems. Myth number 2 is networking, can get you a job, right? We've all heard that. 70 to 80% of all people, right, get jobs through networking. What does that even mean, I saw a stat the other day. It says they've got it down to 76% of all people get jobs through networking. According to a Vault article, networking is not about asking strangers for jobs or referrals. We have to do something to get people to do something for us. And at the very least, we have to be interested, and curious, and respectful. We have to make a connection. Networking can get you a job, but it's not a given. So you can't just show up and expect at a networking event that something's going to happen for you. I remember when I was at Vanderbilt, we were doing a big event down in the ballrooms, a big industry event, Fortune 500 companies. And there was a student that was working with us who couldn't get a job through regular campus recruiting. And he was a member of a club that set up a booth down in the ballroom. And at the end of the event, he went over and talked with one of the recruiters and helped them carry their stuff out to the car. And remember, this guy couldn't get an interview with campus recruiting. And that summer, he was the only Vanderbilt student to get an internship at this major company. And again, you've got to do something. You can't just show up. Myth number 3, and we hear this all the time, right? It's probably extroverts spreading this myth. Introverts are bad networkers, right? The truth is, everyone approaches networking differently. If you have more introverted tendencies, you may look at small groups, or if you got to go to a big event, you may set some small goals about, I want to meet 3 to 5 people, and this is the problem I'm trying to solve. If you're an introvert, you're in good company. Bill Gates, Steven Spielberg, Mark Zuckerberg, all those folks, and they seem to have done pretty well. According to a Fast Company article, and this is pretty interesting, introverts who tend to deflect attention away from themselves are more empathetic and focused on the needs of others. This habitual generosity is a key trait of super connectors, and that's people who are more focused on long-term relationships than superficial transactional ones. So again, you don't have to be a greasy smoozer to be a great networker or make connections. Number 4, and this is changing quickly, networking has to be done face-to-face. Of course, we're in this place and time where we've got the internet, and we've got social media. We've got all of our connections and communities and followers and virtual teams and all these things. So we can be connected to people all over the world. People we will probably never meet, but they're just as valuable as those that we meet face to face. And you can do this obviously on LinkedIn, it's a great place. The Alumni Association is a great place. Or it could be places online that you just hang out. But again, like sports sites, cooking blogs, those kinds of things. And the same rules apply that apply to face-to-face networking. Myth number 5, you don't need business cards. Well, I'm like you. I thought, when I started my business again 2 years ago, that I wouldn't need business cards. So I started going out to these luncheons and all these other things, and everybody was asking for business cards. So I had to bite the bullet and go out and get business cards. And so I was wondering about that. So I looked up what do people think about this, business cards or no business cards? So Forbes magazine asked their agency council, made up of PR folks, advertising, creative, and media strategy executives, about the relevance of business cards. And one of them said he hasn't used one in 5 years. But the other said they're still necessary, especially for old school audiences. They said cards are useful to supplement digital connections and should be collected and then digitized. And there's many apps and platforms out there to do that. And here's what I think is the most important thing about business cards, is they're a physical reminder of your presence. They're more professional. Cards, like branding and marketing, make an impression through redundancy. They see your name in an email. They see your name on a website. They see your name on a business card. So, yes, business cards are still a thing. And by the way, if you don't work for a company, corporation, or whatever, they are so cheap to get these days. There's no reason not to have one. We'll do 5 networking strategies here real quick. The first one is you have to be open to make connections. Everyone is a potential connection, and connections may come from other areas of your life that have nothing to do with your work life. So I was at this conference several years ago. It's an international conference in Seattle. And so we'd broken out into like round tables, like a dozen people. And this guy, famous author, sat down beside me. He just got out of this workshop that he was teaching. And the first thing he said when he sat down at the table was, I've got this song on my mind and I can't get it off. And the name of the song is Sitting Here La La Waiting on My Ya Ya. And so full disclosure, I'm also a musician and I've loved jazz and rhythm and blues for a long time. So I said, yeah, that is Lee Dorsey, 1960s New Orleans. And he couldn't believe that. He couldn't believe that I knew that, and it was logical that I would. So we started our conversation about music for a little while, and then we jumped over to career development and all his vast knowledge in that. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in my office, and I got this big package in the mail, and he'd sent me all of his books. He'd written about 8 or 10 books, all autographed, all references to this song and this. So you never know. So we came together over this song. So your love may be baseball or opera or books or whatever, and you may have a connection to a completely different field. One of my former clients was a technology worker, but his passion was teaching skydiving on the weekends. He'd gotten every technology job he'd ever had through skydiving, which is pretty crazy, but again, it makes perfect sense. The second point I want to make is know why you're there. What's the problem you're trying to solve? Am I trying to get an information interview? Am I trying to get investors for a startup? So think about, what are the questions that you need answered? What do you need to know? Why? What's the biggest challenge in your industry right now? What are the trends that are coming up? Who else would you recommend that I talk to? So know why you're there. What's the problem? And then have some questions related to that. So I'm going to do another quick activity here. Thinking about the Vanderbilt Alumni Networking Night, I want you to take a moment and I want you to write down, those of you who will be attending that, and if you're not attending that, you're attending another event coming up here in the next month or so, I want you to write down 2 things you hope to gain from these upcoming events. And again, it could be anything. It could be information about graduate school, career advice, it could be a referral. So let's take a couple of seconds and write down 2 things you hope to gain from this event. Alrighty. Next point is, and this is important, is be a detective. Be a detective. You know, some of you are going to networking night. If you're not going to this, you're going to some kind of other big event in the future. You know, who's going to be there? What kind of event is it? So if you're going to this networking night, research the chapter page. Who are the leaders? When did they graduate? Who are the alums in your city, which you can look up, obviously, with the Alumni Association or on LinkedIn, with the most common job titles. And so again, these are connection points. Even if these people are not at the event, you can ask the people at the event if they know some of these folks. Again, always do the research. When you're having a coffee with somebody for the first time, look up their background. When you get an email from someone, you know, do the research on them and see who they are. Which leads then to connection points. Connection points is just what we have in common, right? Those of you going to the networking night, everybody went to Vanderbilt. Everybody has a major. Everybody probably has extracurricular activities. Everybody went out to some kind of music event, probably Springwater, Exit In, or Bridgestone while they're in Nashville. Certain restaurants, professors. All of these are connection points. And connection points apply to really anybody that you meet. Let's say you've switched jobs and you're trying to meet everybody in the office, and you walk into somebody's office and they've got a picture of Peyton Manning or Miles Davis or Elon Musk, whatever, you know. Then that's a connection point if you know who those people are. Last but not least, be kind and be interested and respectful. Don't use people. And this is not a strategy as much as it is a behavior. You've got to make a connection. Be someone that someone else would want to connect with. Okay, I want to get into my favorite part of this right now, which is the myths, the hacks from our alums. And the first one, again, I reached out to my network of alums, and I think it's in 3 continents, you know, that I reached out to. And I said, well, I got this webinar coming up for this networking night that's connected with that. Would you send me from your experience the best hacks that you have related to networking? And so we've got some great ones here, some things I never thought of. First one is from Tiffany, class of 96 up there in Philadelphia, PA. And Tiffany's hack is take notes. Tiffany says, I found that at events, after a good conversation with someone, I go to the side of the room or outside for a minute to record a few notes in the notepad or on my phone. And I put down the date, who I spoke with, their title, keywords, maybe if they mentioned their dog, they mentioned their dog or their spouse's name or whatever. That gives me something I can, in the follow-up email, that I can mention in there about how we connected, how and when we connected. And Tiffany says when she has time, she also puts this in a spreadsheet too, so you can have this whole group of names and when you met people. So take notes. And another thing about taking notes, if you go to even a small event, let's say 30 people, and everybody's slinging business cards, and you get back to the office or back to your house, and you've got 15 business cards with nothing written on the back, and you don't know who these people are, then I don't know if you're that much better off, you know. Okay, hack number 2 is don't be afraid to reach out and ask for their advice. And this comes from Lennon in Durham, North Carolina, class of 15. And Lennon says during her first year at Vanderbilt, she noticed on the alumni profile website, there was a woman who worked in advancement at University of North Carolina. And Lennon did her undergrad there, and she had a great interest in working there after she left Vanderbilt. So before she traveled home for the holidays, she reached out to this alum and asked if she could buy her coffee. And they met a few weeks later, struck up this big friendship. And she said, fast forward a year later, she became an incredible resource. So I applied, interviewed, and accepted a job in advancement at the University of North Carolina. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask for the advice of alums. They're out there, the big database, you can sort them all these different ways, but you've got to make the step to reach out. Hack number 3 is from Elizabeth, class of '09 in Seattle, Washington. Hack number 3 and 4, actually. Elizabeth said when she moved to Seattle a few years ago, she left she worked in Nashville for a while and she decided she would need a change of scenery. So she just moved out to Seattle from their job. So the first thing she did was she connected with the Vanderbilt Alumni Network in Seattle. And so she connected with the chapter lead. He introduced Elizabeth to his wife. They had coffee. She was a great sounding board and connected to Elizabeth to all kinds of folks around the city, especially in areas higher ed. So again, reach out early if you're moving to a new city, and I know a lot of people are moving around right now. Make that your first stop and get connected in the alumni network. Hack number 4 kind of goes along with this. It is volunteer to work the event. I think this is another great thing. So when she first moved to Seattle, she reached out to the event coordinator for the Vanderbilt Alumni Networking event, the one they have next month, all over the world. And so she volunteered to work the event, and she helped with registration. And so this put her in a different role at the event instead of somebody who didn't know a bunch of people, strangers, and that kind of thing. Now she was more of a host, and she was at the registration table. Elizabeth said it made her feel more socially comfortable with interacting with individuals who attended the event. So again, if you think about moving to a new city or you are in a new city, reach out to the Alumni Association and volunteer for their events. It puts you in a different role where you're more comfortable. It's not like networking. Hack number 5, and this comes from Lauren in class of '98 in Nashville, Music City, Tennessee. And, I talked a while ago of introverts are not good networkers, which is a myth, obviously. But Lauren says, if you're shy, always stand beside the food and drink table where people will be passing through. Right? And that's a great move. So position yourself. So everybody's going to move toward the food and drink table. So you don't have to get out into the sea of humanity out there and try to have awkward conversations. Everybody's coming to you. So position yourself. Hack number 6, and this is another one I hadn't thought of. This is from Wayne, class of 13 in Beijing, China. And Wayne says, keep in contact with school admissions, especially in a new city. He says, because a lot of schools are going globally now, and they hold information sessions to reach out to prospective new students, especially in Asia. Most of these events will invite alum, and it's a great opportunity to meet other alums. So this is really kind of a threefold thing here. You're helping prospective students decide, you're helping the university, and you're also helping expand your network through meeting other alums. So keep in contact with school admissions. Hack number 7, and this comes from Jackson in San Francisco, California, class of 12. And Jackson's got a couple of hacks here. One is people are ready and eager to help you. I think Lyndon was talking about that a while ago, especially Vanderbilt alums. He says you'd be surprised how high a response rate you'll get just by cold emailing a bunch of alums. And this is key in demonstrating sincere interest in learning about what they do. He says, of course, be respectful about it. Don't just ask them to get you a job, but don't be afraid to reach out as well. The second hack, he says, opportunities come in unsuspecting places. He says, during college, one of my summer internship opportunities resulted from a conversation I had with an old friend of my dad's when I ran into him at the grocery store. So he got his internship while he was at the grocery store. For his full-time job, my girlfriend at the time's mother wrote me a recommendation after a conversation we had at the dinner table. So you never know when an interesting opportunity will arise. I got an internship at the grocery store and a full-time opportunity at the dinner table. So it gets back to what I was saying a while ago. You've got to be open. These things come out of nowhere. Hack number 9, is from Chris, class of 99 here in Nashville. And Chris says, know who the person is you're speaking with. And that sounds like a no-brainer. But, I don't know. I've done that once or twice back through my career. And I said, man, people didn't let me forget it. So write the name down of the person you're speaking with. And this is a good move right here that Chris is suggesting. Have their LinkedIn profile open on your phone or on your computer or whatever. He said it's a huge no-no to call the person you're speaking with by the wrong name. So again, know who the person is that you're speaking with. And hack number 10 comes from Caroline. Hack number 10, excuse me for a second, comes from Caroline in London, England, class of 14. And she says, stay in touch with your former colleagues. She said it's bittersweet when a colleague leaves your company for another. It can actually be a powerful way to extend your network with minimal effort. Now, people are moving around the job market. They're staying on the job an average of 4.2 years over here in the States. For some folks, it's more like 2.8 years if you're a millennial on average. So people have a lot of jobs now. So if you're in your 30s listening to this webinar, you may have already had 3 or 4 jobs. And so as you rush into the new job and you're trying to meet people and the lay of the land and how things work, sometimes we forget all the people we've worked with in the past. So you may want to sit down tonight and think, who's some folks that I haven't talked to in a while that I want to bring forward? And because you made a connection with them at the previous job, and again, that's going to expand your network. So I want to thank all of the alums for these great hacks. Want to recap here just a minute. We've talked about a lot of things. So we'll talk about networking is about solving problems, right? What's the problem you're trying to solve, whether it's work-related or not work-related? And if we can define that, that's going to tell us who is there to support us, not only in work, but again, as we live our lives. The second point is be strategic. You don't need to connect with everybody. What are the best places? What's the best use of your time where you can connect with people? Point number 3 is be open to possibilities and happenstance. Jackson told the story about the internship at the grocery store. I told you the story about the guy that I met at the conference who needed the name of the song that was on his mind. So you never know how these connections are going to happen. And sometimes they're going to happen over things that have nothing to do with work. The next point is be organized. Do the research. Understand where the connection points are before you meet with somebody. Take notes like Tiffany was talking about. And by all means, do the follow-up. Because if you do all these things and you don't follow up, you're probably not going to achieve the goals that you're trying to achieve. So with that, I hope these are some ideas that will help you make connections to accomplish your goals in the future. And with that, Sarah, I think we're great on time here. So I want to turn it back over to you here to see if we have any questions.
Hey, Jen, looks like we don't have any questions yet, so anyone feel free to send them in. We'll give y'all just a couple minutes and so we can get this answered for you.
Yeah, let me say this. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with you and answer any questions you may have.
All right, Jim, so we've got one question, and it's on any thoughts on informational interviews.
Okay. So what is the question again? That broke up just a little bit.
So sorry about that, Jim. All right, the question is, any thoughts on informational interviews?
One is I think they're terrific. There's no better way, or one of the best ways to find out about a new field, or if if you just need inspiration, maybe you're in your present job and you're not happy and you don't know why, you've got the skills to do it and everything, you might just to reach out to somebody in the field to broaden your horizon about other opportunities that may be there for you. Again, all the same rules apply. It's so easy to connect to people now, especially on the Vanderbilt Alumni Database through LinkedIn. Again, if you've never done one, take the leap of faith and get out there and do one. Because after you do it, there's so much fun. I still do them probably 5 times a year just to stay current in my field and know what's going on, the trends and everything. So get out there and do it.
All right, Jim, we've got one more question. Any tips for painfully shy people in large group settings?
Yes, I covered a little bit of that. Again, so one is go ahead and one is know why you're there to start with. One is what's the problem you're trying to solve. Research the event and try to research as many of the people that are going to be at the event as you can. So maybe you see their faces or whatever, and you can go to them. The other thing is you just set small goals. Big events can be very intimidating. I'm not sure if a whole lot of people like it when you're in a room with 1,000 other people and wondering what's going on. So again, you may set small goals. Maybe it's I'm going to meet 3 to 5 people in my particular, and here's what I'm trying to find out from them. And if I do that, then that's success right there.
All right, so last call for any more questions. Please feel free to send them in. All right. Well, Jim, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and encouragement with us today on networking. And thank you all for the attendees for participating and joining us this afternoon. I just want to encourage you all to sign up for networking night in your city or the closest city to you. This will be a wonderful evening with fellow Commodores in a city near you. Sign up on vuconnect.com/networking night. Also, be sure to check out all the career resources and events, both electronic and in person, provided to you by the Vanderbilt Alumni Association. Later this week, I will send a follow-up email with the archived link of today's webinar and a request for feedback. We are always looking to improve upon our offerings to alumni, so please be in touch and let us know how we can best support you. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great day.